So after learning Portuguese for 3 years, I have finally arrived in Brazil, which means I'm fully immersed in the language. So this video will be a Q&A style video about immersion because I am lazy and I don't want to edit my videos. So this will be more like a podcast style video. I'll just read off the question and then I'll give my answer. So for those of you who want to fully immerse yourself in a language in another country, then I hope this will give you a good idea of how to prepare. What did you imagine immersion would be like before you moved to Brazil? So before moving to Brazil, I thought it would be very joyful and pleasant, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't know the word for, I don't know, refrigerator. And then we'd have a good laugh and then move on. That was my idealistic version of what I expected the immersion to be like when I came to Brazil. What were you expecting to happen to your Portuguese once you arrived? Once I arrived, I thought that my Portuguese would just shoot up exponentially. Like I would be able to notice a difference very, very soon. I thought that I already had a good baseline and that once I arrived in Brazil, then the growth would be exponential, especially because I could already talk to a native speaker without much problem. How confident were you in your Portuguese before coming here? I was quite confident. I am able to talk to a native speaker from Rio more or less pretty well. He doesn't go full native pace, right? But he doesn't slow down either. And I'm able to understand him for the most part. There are some things that he says that I don't know that I have to ask for help with, and he can help me in Portuguese, and it's really no issue. Same thing for me. Sometimes I don't know words and I can ask for help by kind of describing the thing that I want to say, and then he can give me the word, and all's well. My Portuguese wasn't perfect, and it wasn't great, but it was enough to survive. So I thought I would come here and I would be good enough to survive. That is my confidence level. That was my confidence level. What surprised you most once you actually started living here? How quickly people speak. Goodness gracious, people speak so quickly. And when you ask them to slow down, it's not really like, you don't understand it. Okay, let me slow it down. It's more like, you don't understand me? I guess I'll slow down. And then they slow down and you still can't understand them because their accent is just so different than what you're used to. Because I live in the north, and the northern accent, the Manausian accent, is different than the Carioca accent, or the accent in Rio de Janeiro. I hate saying that word in English, by the way. So it's almost like you know all the sounds. You know that video of people speaking English, but you don't know what they're saying? So you know what English sounds like, but you can't hear any of the words? That's what I feel like. I'm like, oh, this is Portuguese. I don't know what they're saying, though. It's bad. And another thing that surprised me is how timid I am in speaking Portuguese. I thought Portuguese would kind of open me up and make me a lot more extroverted, but I'm quite nervous talking to people now. And especially in times of need, I tend to fumble over my words a lot. So the times that I need it most, I'm not the greatest at Portuguese. It's kind of unfortunate. How much Portuguese do you use in your day-to-day life? I'd say a good amount. If you really wanted to, you could get by with no Portuguese and it'd be fine. You'd be able to survive. I use probably around 3 to 4 hours a day on average, because some days I use it all day. Some days I use it for, 6 hours. Some days I use it for 2 hours. Depends on how long I'm out and about. It's really a choose your own adventure story. You get to choose how much you want to practice. Were there moments when you realized immersion wasn't doing as much as you'd hoped? Yes, because I encounter the same situations quite frequently, and I still haven't learned the proper terms. So an example of this is botas, or boots. I learned botas on my second go-around, or my third go-around instead of my second. Or sacola. I think the word is sacola for bag, like a grocery bag. I still don't know if that's completely right, even though I've been grocery shopping twice. And I've said, no preciso. I don't need it. But I don't know the word for grocery bag. So I just point to it and I say, não preciso. I don't need it. So I reverted a lot back to caveman language. So yeah, there are moments where you realize like immersion, like even though you're immersed and you're seeing these things over and over, it still isn't automatic. How do Brazilians usually react when you speak Portuguese? Depends on who it is. If it's a shopkeeper or if it's somebody who works in a company, then they're probably like not too impressed with me because they just want to go home. They're just not living their best life, which is fine. That's just the way, society's built. Some people aren't happy, and that's just the way it has been, and that's the way it'll always be. Um, but those there are some people who like it a lot when I speak Portuguese. Like when I went on a tour to a bunch of waterfalls close to Manaus in a place called Presidente Figueiredo. Um, One of my tour guides was him and I were chatting in Portuguese, and he was like he was vibing with it. And then some dude from freaking Recife, I think it was Recife. I don't remember the exact city, but he was from the Northeast, and he was just freaking out that I could speak Portuguese and that I knew English, and he was trying to speak English with me. It was super fun. I like that guy a lot. And like my Uber driver today, he was just super pumped that I was speaking Portuguese because I had the Carioca accent and I knew all the Carioca slang. So him and I were vibing, but a lot of the people who don't like my Portuguese are the ones who aren't interacting with me for pleasure and more interacting with me because it's their job. Those guys aren't super impressed with me. For the most part, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, they don't care. They would rather me be fluent. What does a typical day of immersion look like for you? Honestly, I've been answering honestly. Honestly, it looks like going on trips with a bunch of Brazilians. That helps a lot. Or talking to Uber drivers also helps a lot. A lot of times talking to people when it's your only option is the best way to improve your Portuguese. So like improving it with Uber drivers. What else you can do? Just sit there in silence? You might as well talk. You might as well practice. Or like going on, like when I went to the waterfalls, we had a big Brazilian band. And I spoke with them because, it was a day trip. Like, we're going to get to know each other. But a lot of me not speaking Portuguese and not immersing myself comes in like the menial tasks, like going grocery shopping and trying to do stuff that isn't for pleasure. That stuff I really shy away from speaking Portuguese because I feel like there's a lot more hustle and bustle and I don't want to take up people's time. And also, like I said, they're not super impressed with me, so I don't like making a fool of myself and making them upset when I have the option to not do that. Oh, also another way to be immersed is to go to a restaurant and just sit down and talk with some people. How often do you catch yourself switching back to English? Okay, so whenever I call somebody, I switch to English. And whenever people try to speak English with me, I'll try to speak English with them because I think it's fun and they don't often encounter English speakers in Brazil. What really makes me upset though is that I can't transfer slang. Like I wanted to say that something or other wasn't my cup of tea. I can't translate that into Portuguese because it doesn't make sense. Like, literally, this thing is not my cup of tea doesn't make sense. Because of course it's not a cup of tea, it's something else. Not the metaphor, not the expression that I'm trying to use. So that has been really frustrating for me. Do you think it's possible to live in the country but still not be immersed? Yes, my ex's mom was like that. She just stayed at home all day and cooked and let the dude work and let the dude do all the stuff. Although she did drive and go to the grocery store, but there's a lot more you can get away with pointing and making hand symbols than you can ever imagine. What parts of Brazilian culture have helped you learn more? What parts have made it harder? The danger has made it so much harder because I'm a lot more nervous to go out, especially into areas that I don't know or at night or whatever. When I was living in Madison, it was really easy just to go out at night because Madison is super safe. This city is not super safe. There are areas where you can't go, and there are things you can't do that you have to be really cautious of. And that's really holding me back, I feel like. Because if I knew if I knew I was going to like freaking Singapore or even Thailand's a little bit dangerous, but Thailand or like Japan or Taiwan, like I could do a lot more. But I'm nervous because once 6 o'clock hits, I'm not leaving my house. I mean, unless I'm Ubering to go somewhere. Like I'll be going to a Halloween thing, hopefully tomorrow at night. But the danger really holds you back. Maybe that's just me being extra cautious because that's just kind of my personality. But that's been really holding me back. And then what helps me? People aren't usually super cold. I think it depends on the person, really. But Brazilians are somewhat extroverted. Yeah, they seem. I don't really know. I don't really know what has helped me, because this. I guess the extroversion thing helps me the most because it's not like Finland, where people just automatically switch to English, and people not knowing English helps a lot because I'm forced to use Portuguese. So, yeah. What do you wish someone had told you before you came? It's not as easy as you think. Knowing how to speak a language and speaking with locals, two very different things. Get ready. What's something that immersion can't teach you? Immersion can't teach you how to go out and actually participate in the local scene. That's something you got to learn by yourself, I don't know, how do I explain that? Like, just because you're in a country doesn't mean you'll learn a whole lot. You have to go out and experience and do things and really make a conscious effort to put yourself out there to actually learn as much as you want to be able to learn and experience as much as you want to be able to experience. How do you study now that you know that immersion alone isn't enough? I think immersion alone is enough. And I think that the only thing that's holding me back is the time that I spend in my Airbnb and not out conversing with people. Do you think immersion still has value, just not in the way people imagine? It absolutely has value. I would consider doing this immersion thing when you're a lot more comfortable with the language, especially if the place you're going to is dangerous. Because when you get in a tight situation, then you're able to ask for help. If you didn't know the language, it'd be really hard to get out of those situations. So if the place is dangerous, I highly recommend getting a grasp on being able to speak and being able to listen. Would you still recommend immersion to others? Under what conditions? Yeah, I'd recommend it. Make sure you're financially secure. Make sure you're smart. Make sure you're street smart. Be cautious. Be extroverted. All that good stuff. Has your view of language learning changed since moving here? No. What's your plan now for improving Portuguese? Talking to people. If you could redo your first few months in Brazil, what would you change? I've been here for a week, and I would really like to find group activities or something, because what I enjoyed the most so far being here was that waterfall tour with the group. So if I can find a way to meet groups or meet a bunch of people doing the same thing or meet a bunch of like-minded people, then I want to do that. And I think that's the easiest and most comfortable way to improve your language, improve your fluency in your target language. Or maybe that's just how I have fun. I don't know. But that has been a lot better. That's been a lot more conducive to great conversation than just sitting down at a restaurant and talking with somebody, because they're usually a little bit anxious at first. What's your message of someone dreaming of learning language through immersion? I would say get ready to learn a lot, but not as much as you think you will. Because I went into this trip with the expectation of being able to instantly improve my Portuguese and see noticeable jumps right away. I haven't seen that, really. The accent's still crazy to me. People still can't understand me. And this is after being able to converse with somebody from Rio. So just be prepared, even if you think you have a strong grasp on the language. Actually being and living in the city or in the country that speaks the target language, completely different. The difference is just unreal. So just get ready. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. Have a great day. Ciao.